But I feel like fertility in the queer space can be kind of isolating because and maybe sometimes I try to be too aware of people's feelings. But it's like, we're not experiencing infertility. Like,
Right.
I'm not experiencing infertility because I've had 2 failed cycles. I obviously don't want to try to put myself in a space where, with women who are experiencing that, that's a level I can't, based on how much the 2 cycles affected me, I literally can't even imagine dealing with that.
That's a really good distinguishing.
Yeah. Actually, one of my sisters struggled with infertility for many years. Luckily, her and my brother-in-law now have the absolutely most amazing daughter, and we're all
Destiny.
it was nice to have her as a resource during this time, just because I think she could share from her perspective, what it was like to see it happening for her friends and it not happening for her, or, just the pressures that they felt, or, not wanting to get your hopes up, or all of that. You're like, I don't know. It's just kind of a conflicting space to be in, because I don't want to it was grief, right? That's the reality of what I thought was going to happen on the timeline I thought it was going to happen on. So I was grieving that, but I didn't want to put my grief in a bucket where I felt like it didn't belong. But then it also is different because I don't feel like my grief, or I didn't feel at the time like my grief belonged with other people who were not having medical intervention, like, heterosexual couples, because I felt like, well, there's a financial burden, and I am on medication, and I am being monitored, and so it felt,
and all the appointments, and it is different.
It felt like it was different from them, and and everyone's grief is on an equal playing field, right? In this scenario,
It's just different.
some of our friends who were going through that we would talk to, they would always say, well, it's totally different because you guys are having doctors and stuff, and then I'm saying to them, like, well, your period coming is your period coming. Like, that's a big fat fucking bummer for both of us, no matter how.
If you're trying to get pregnant.
I put my feelings. Like, I just felt like, where do I put this? Where does this belong?